Most people want to hear, I want to hear one trick that's going to work and make me a bunch of money, as opposed to investing in something that's going to make me better.
Hey guys, I got Stephen Ross, the author of Doors Open When You Knock. And if I just sit and dissect that title alone, Doors Open When You Knock, let's face it, in our industry, sometimes that's all you got to do. Whether it's knocking on a physical door or knocking on a phone call or knocking on a realtor's door, whatever it might be, right? It's just the action of doing something, I think, that matters here. So it's going to be an interesting podcast. You're going to kind of see how all of it works and how somebody who isn't even a self-proclaimed sociable person, he doesn't like working night times, he doesn't like working weekends, and he doesn't necessarily like being around groups of people, but yet he door knocked and he did it consistently, which is the key to success in this industry. Consistency, doing the hard things consistently. Hope you like the show. All right, as promised, here he is, Stephen Ross. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Dino.
So I have to admit, the title of your book caught my attention, and I wanted to get you on here so that we can go deep into why you wrote this book, what it means to you, and how ultimately is it going to help and everybody in the real estate industry grow their business, right? And even, dare I say, have a better life while they're doing more business, right? So before we get into your book, which is Doors Open When You Knock, I love that title, by the way. I want everybody to know, who are you? Who's Stephen Ross, personally and professionally?
Yeah, well, Dino, I'm the worst type of person to be a real estate agent because I'm introverted. I don't work nights or weekends. You can't find me online. I don't do parties or events. I'm a little antisocial. And yet here I am, 22 years in, and I built my business knocking on doors. I knocked on over 125,000 doors as a real estate agent. So I knocked on doors for 16 years, both in California, where I'm from, and then in Colorado when I moved here at the end of 2008. And, this is a business about talking to people. And as I described, right, I don't want to do any of this stuff to go talk to people, but I didn't want to fail, and I had 3 little kids to feed. So I was going to figure out a way to make it work. And I forgot what you asked me, but that's kind of in a nutshell, what you need to know about me.
Tell me about the 3 little kids. Are they still little kids?
No, they're all grown. At the time we're recording this. So I got my real estate license in LA, in California, March 15th, 2005. And my 3rd child was born 6 weeks later. Right. So in a commission only business, I had 3 little kids under the age of 5. And, but I sucked at whatever you needed to do to feed those kids. And at the time we're recording this, I'm leaving in 2 days to take that same daughter for her 21st birthday to Italy. It's fast forward, 21 years. And so I raised the book really is about what does it take. So it's Doors Open When You Knock, but the subtitle is A Handbook for Boundless Opportunity and Freedom. So it's like, how do you really maximize your business and yet still have a life?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. I got to tell you, my dad told me a long time ago, he's like, son, listen, he goes, if you want to make more money, it's pretty simple. All you got to do is get married. And he goes, you want to make more money? Have a baby. You want to make more money? You guessed it. Have another baby. So I have learned over the years that not everybody steps up to that. And my dad's caveat was a good man always steps up to that. And it's funny you say what you said because I forget what year it was now. Gosh, 2014, I think. My wife was pregnant with my 4th kid. And this is after the 2008 debacle and, losing everything. And I'm just like, I'm like sitting here, she's excited. I'm nervous. I'm scared as heck, thinking I'm never going to be able to retire. It's just never going to happen, but it threw me into a tailspin that ended up being the best thing that ever happened. And the reason why is because it forced me to think more long term as opposed to just here and now today. And the reason why is because I thought, man, I got another 18 to 20 years that I got to figure out. So what I did is back then, the big buzzword was millennial, right? And it was like, these millennials are going to change everything. These millennials don't like to buy normal houses. They want this, they want that, like amenities and yada yada yada. So I started reading up on millennials, and I started deciding that I was going to change my entire business model around. I had been in the business for, quite a few years already at that point, and my client was kind of like at this level, right? Like good clients, higher price points, no issues, no nothing. And I decided I'm going to start back down here with first time home buyers. And that's going to get me another 20 plus years in this industry. And it was really the best thing I ever did. But it also, what I loved, and this is the kind of the challenge for everybody, is it forced me to look at my business model as a whole. And sometimes we just start realtors selling houses, loan officers just trying to sell loans, kind of take whatever you can take, and you just close as many loans as you can. But that's not the business model. Like, what's your business model? And I think it's important to really like dissect it and work within the confines of it, because I do believe riches are in the niches, and you could do even better when you're hyper focused on something. I'm not saying that you got to stay in a box all the time, but I do believe even little boxes are abundant, So I've learned over the years that it's also a lot easier. Life is easier when you're not trying to do a million things, right? So just my own little thing of something I went through when I had my fourth kid, but it started me on this new plan, and I had to relearn how to talk to first time home buyers, which was really good for me. And I ended up really loving it. And I found out they were extremely grateful people, because it was exciting to buy a house again, right? And I also learned that it's one of the most nerve-wracking things known to man, right? It's like written divorce, buying a house, and starting a new job, I think, are like some of the craziest things that people go through. Well, I studied it, and I realized the reason why buying a house was so nerve-wracking for people and so stressful. I'm going to ask you this question. Do you know why? In my personal opinion, do you know why that became the most stressful thing for people?
I don't know, but it feels like you're leading me to the 30-year note that they were signing.
No, because realtors and loan officers sucked at doing their job. That's why they were so stressed out. It's like, no wonder everybody had a bad experience because the lender didn't close on time. And the realtor was so fixated on that commission check that they were more stressed out than anybody. And they caused unneeded panic in the entire process of buying a house, as opposed to it being the most joyous occasion and like this really amazing time in their life. So I decided at that time to turn all this stuff around and make it that joyous occasion again, make it an event that they can celebrate. So just like that, once I did that, business skyrocketed, because I didn't do it. I didn't create that chaos like everybody else. Now back to you. So tell me why you wrote this book.
Well, let me think. When I first started writing, this is 2019, 2020. So that would have been 15 years in the business. What I noticed is kind of what you were just saying. It's really hard to show up consistently over time. And what got in the way for most people, was just my observation, is that there's just too many things that took them off track. And so the book is like, how do you show up consistently year in, year out? And so there's 10 chapters, and really each chapter is something that, if you don't get clear, is likely to take you off track. And it was really kind of like, it's like writing the itch. It's like, if everyone could just do these things, they'd have a lot more peace and calm and consistency in their business.
I'll tell you what, I have a lot of questions to ask about the book, but before we do, I want to go back to day one. We already know you got your license when you had 3 kids under 5 years old going commission only, and you weren't a outgoing type of personality. Like,
Still not.
what made you want to get into this business? I would think that'd be the scariest, worst thing in the world for somebody like you to get into.
I mean, I was leaving consulting and I was the CTO of a startup, and that was '05. And I lived in LA, and LA, and what it was like in '05. There's all these people making money, and I'm like, these guys are knuckleheads. Surely I could do this,
Surely I could be a better knucklehead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, which is what everybody says. And my kids were little. I didn't want to be on a plane. I didn't want a long commute. I didn't want 14-hour days. I didn't want to be up all night writing emails. And I thought, well, this is a great business that I could expand my skill set and be home every night to raise my kids. That is why I got into real estate.
Yeah, and out of curiosity, what did the first, let's call it 6 months look like for you? How did you get indoctrinated into real estate?
I don't remember the first 2 months. I remember May of 2005. That's when I was with Coldwell Banker, and used to have to do Fast Start, which was 2 weeks of training. I remember being on the second week. It's in Woodland Hills on Ventura Boulevard. And the second week they brought in a coach, and he yelled at us all day. His name's Steve Schuil. He was one of the inventors of real estate coaching. And he said, it's a very simple business. Knock on heads, knock on doors, pick one. And I'm like, come on, man. I'm a UCLA grad. I've worked on Wall Street. I'm not knocking on doors. But like, I knew I was already not going to make it. Like, knocking on heads, going out and talking to people wasn't going to work for me. And it took me about another month or so to start knocking on doors. And I think I started like in June of '05, and I knocked on doors from June '05 through October 2020.
I keep talking. I'm pulling something up on my phone that I want to play.
No problem.
Because you're talking about this. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what you get for
Hold on here. Let me see.
asking a simple question, man. Like, it was not that hard. Well, let me say it a different way. It became very clear to me what needed to be done. It didn't mean I loved doing it or was any good at it, which is a different discussion.
Okay, so after you went through this training, so to speak, did you immediately go out and start knocking on doors?
Well, it took me about a month. What are you trying
Just to get a
Yeah, what are you trying to find? Let's because I could see you're adamant about getting this played.
I am. It's killing me here. Okay, hold on. I gotta find it. Oh, okay. I'm in the right folder now. I can get there a little faster. So I'll give context while I'm looking. I went to a Tony Robbins seminar called Business Mastery a long time ago. And I have to admit, I really did like it. It was like 10 grand, which was a ton of money back then.
Still.
But he had a ton of great people there that I got to listen to, a lot of stuff that I learned. Here it is. And this one particular scene, let me turn it up. Tony Robbins was asking questions. People were, raising their hands. And this guy that happened to stand up to ask a question was a real estate agent. So I immediately turned on my recorder thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. And there's a little profanity here. So plug your ears if you don't like listening to it, because Tony Robbins, does this. And he was talking about knocking on doors. So listen to this.
Right.
Don't do this for you. Don't do some marketing tool. Do something for your community that will touch your community. That doesn't cost a lot of money, but people get that one of what really needs it. Everybody says, I'll give you service. Everybody says, like, what the fuck have you done? All you've done is knock on doors and ask for shit. Stop being a fucking asker and be a giver.
So bottom line, right, is stop being a fucking asker and be a fucking giver, is what he said.
Yes.
And the reality is, right, it's like I I've knocked on doors, but only to experiment with this one idea that I had one time. So I went out with my realtor and knocked on doors. It was the only time I've ever had a knock on doors. But I learned an awful lot in a 3-hour period. You get rejected and you tweak a little bit. People don't answer, you get frustrated, but you keep going to the next one, right? And what I realized after a few of these is like every single door I went to was littered with real estate agents publications and flyers and cards and all sorts. Literally every door had a bunch of stuff. There was all these agents that were doing it. So even door knocking, I would say, because it's difficult, knocks out probably 98% of all the realtors, but there was still 2% that were doing it all the time. And then they were just littering there. And I couldn't help but I like this Tony Robbins thing stuck in my head. Stop being an asker and be a giver. So I retweaked everything. And a guy asked me, he goes, well, what's in it for you? Why would you do this? And I'll give context. There was a lot of condo complexes that were not FHA approved. And I thought, well, shoot, I did a little research, same community, condo complex A over here is FHA approved. And back then average was going for like $650,000. Condo complex B, very comparable condos, literally 2 miles away, comparable everything, going for about $580,000 instead of 650. The only thing I can think of is the buyer pool had less people here because it was not FHA approved. So I thought to myself, well, shoot, I can get this thing FHA approved. I know how to do that. I have a person that I've given. Why don't we turn it into a bigger project? So I put together this entire marketing campaign. I forgot what I called it now, but it was something with FHA approved condos, right? And I had like this form, and we had these beautiful handouts made, and we went around to every house and we knocked on the doors and said, do you realize that we can grow, or we can increase the value of your home by 15% just strictly by having you be FHA approved? And a lot of people didn't even know what that meant, right? But it's like your board, your HOA is not doing the paperwork necessary. But what we're willing to do, is because it's confusing, it's a lot of work and a little expensive, but we're willing to do all that for free. But we need enough signatures. We're trying to get enough signatures from the community, at least 10% of the community that wants us to do it. Otherwise, we're not going to spend our time and money to do this. And it was interesting, right? Because I figured if somebody signs that, that's a great lead. That's somebody that's probably interested in selling their house here within the next 2 years. Then I also did a little more research, and it said that in that particular community, on average, people bought their house and 2.5 years later they sold. And I thought, ooh, the turnover there is great. Like that's the perfect first-time home buyer, right? They buy it a little over 2 years, they sell it, they move up. A real estate agent could kill it in here, like absolutely kill it, right? The turnover rate, you can become the prominent real estate agent. But how do we get in? How do we infiltrate and beat the competition? Well, number one, I remembered what Tony Robbins said. Is like, instead of just asking, let's give. So this is what we're giving. We're going to give you a 15% bump in equity right out of the gate. So when the guy asked me, it just so happened I looked down to think what I was going to say, and I saw all these flyers from real estate agents. I said, well, as you can see, all of these real estate agents have littered your front porch. I'm not going to do that. I'm here because I want to give you something of value. And when you ask what's in it for me, on the flip side, one day when you're ready to sell, I hope you don't think about any of these people and you think about the people that just made you an extra, $80,000 or whatever it was. And just like that, I was like, I did it. I flipped it from being an asker to a giver. And just like that, man, it started like kind of working, right? And we were able to get all these names of people in the complex. It was beautiful. It's a great idea. All from knocking and trying stuff, but
Yeah.
bottom line,
two
be a
things.
giver.
That's an excellent story. I want to go back to where you started, which is number one, there's not that many people actually knocking. Okay. People send a lot of stuff, but there's not actually that many people knocking on doors. But the second thing is you did it one time. I did it for 16 years. And this is not about making you wrong. It's for anyone listening. Most people want to hear, I want to hear one trick that's going to work and make me a bunch of money, as opposed to investing in something that's going to make me better for the long run. And I was not there to get people to list their home with me. I mean, that did happen. But what I was there to do is build relationships, which is a give. And most people, many, I don't know about most, but I would say most, but let's just start with many, that it's a short term. I need to make a sale. If it's not going to turn into a sale, or they'll go to the doors, it didn't work. How many doors did you knock on? 30. I mean, like, the perspective is off. Sorry, I know that's somewhere we were going, but I didn't want to leave that point untouched because it's a critical point.
I don't know the statistic, but there's greatness around the corner, and most people give up before they make it around the corner.
Every time I wanted to quit, it's not going well today. Oh, that person was a jerk. I'm just going to finish this block and go home. But, that wasn't my commitment. Like, usually it was a time limit or a number of people I spoke to. Or I did it a number of different ways. Every time I didn't quit and went the next block, there's always magic. Always. Always.
And do you think door knocking is still viable?
Yep.
Like, as the best
Yep.
way?
Well, I don't know about the best way. It's an effective way to be in front of people. I mean, if you're a new real estate agent, what else are you going to do to learn the market faster? And if you're, I'm not saying loan officers can't do, but for a real estate agent, how else are you going to learn the market faster? Just not. Just not.
Is there a strategy in door knocking? It's not easy. You didn't have that self-proclaimed magnetic, outgoing personality. Why were you successful with it? Just sheer numbers, or did you develop a technique that worked?
That's a kind of a tricky question. Trying to think of the answer that's going to make a difference. It was consistency over time, and yes, I did get better. So I was not very good in the beginning. I was very good at the end. But I was good at building relationships. I mean, I kind of already had that. Like I know Taha, very funny. Steven's an introvert. He doesn't do parties or events. I do that, which is all true, but I'm not inept either as a communicator. And so I mean, I wasn't bad before, but after 16 years of knocking on doors, you get really good. I mean, you don't have to get good. I got very good at talking to people and the nuance and figuring out how to create relationships literally from nothing. But anyone listening who's not going to knock on doors, if you're a loan officer and this doesn't apply, you're knocking on doors. That is a metaphor. You got to go out and be in front of other people, whether it's referral partners or borrowers. And many people just don't have enough reps to get themselves better at building trusted relationships.
So let's talk about that for a minute. I've always been a referral based self gen guy. So I say to some of my loan officers, like it's different because I already have trust built in from the very first phone call. Because they were referred to me by somebody else. So they already trust me. So I can approach this a little differently. And then I see some of my my lead gen guys that are buying leads out of Lennytree or various places. And I think to myself, man, that's a tough call because how do you create trust in a short period of time? They're on guard, because they already don't trust, but yet even though they're the ones reaching out, they don't seem to trust right away. And and then if I take this back to door knocking, you're interrupting somebody unannounced at their house. How do you develop that trust? Like, let's give somebody actionable, steps as how to develop that trust. And is it done right away through some sort of connection, or is it done because you keep showing up to that same house every week?
Yeah, well, that was a lot. We could do another 45 minutes just on that. So, but the answer to the very last piece of your question is it takes time, right? Trust happens over time. When you met your wife, where did you meet your wife?
She was instantly attracted to me, and
Yeah,
she
but
instantly.
she wasn't ready to get married on day one.
Yeah, I had to ask her out a few times.
Yeah, she was not ready to get married on day one. And so no one is willing to commit to you really on day one. Just take that as the case. I mean, every now and then it happens like as a miracle because someone comes in your open house or whatever. But for the most part, the relationship takes time. So part of the doors was just consistently showing up at people's doors, gave me an opportunity to develop myself as someone that they can count on because I was doing something hard. And then it was, what kind of conversation am I having with them? Am I there to, it goes back to what you said when you were on those doors. Am I there to get something or am I there to contribute something?
I liked what you said there, like give them a reason to see that you were someone they can count on because you were doing something hard. I think people shy away from doing hard things. I was just I'm rereading the book The Compound Effect.
Yeah, great.
Great book. And he's talking about when he was a kid and his dad loved doing hard things. And and it taught him that lesson. And when you do hard things, good things come of it most of the time. But the consistency piece is, you lift heavy weights, that's hard, but it doesn't do anything unless you consistently do it. Right. So it's the same thing. Door knocking's hard, but it doesn't work if that's all you do at one time and you're done. And the other piece too that I never really thought of just because I never had a door knock as a lender, but I counted on my realtors to go door knock. But do, saying you're going to go door knock every day, but door knocking a different community every day doesn't do the trick either because you don't get to build a relationship with the same people. It's interesting. Hold on, I'm just taking some notes here.
Yeah, when I came to Colorado at the end of '08, so say the beginning of '09, the market was not right for working a neighborhood. I was just trying to survive. So, and there was a lot of bank owned stuff. So I was opportunistic. I looked for where I felt I could do it, where I could find a client who wanted to do something now. And it worked in that market. But once we came out of that, it was very clear that the name of this game is relationships. And to make my job easier is I should be going back to the same neighborhoods and build relationships with people so that they knew me. And, so it really wasn't until 2014 that I started repeating. But for 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, I bounced around a lot. I forgot I was just filling time while you were taking notes. Forgot what we were talking about.
So let's go through the context of the book a little bit more. I know the title says a lot, but let's start with why What compelled you to write this book?
It was what was missing, right? So you've heard other people say, they scratch their own itch. And so for me, I just felt this was a great testament's the wrong word and framework isn't the right word either, but it was just it was what got me through 15 years and continues to get me through consistently showing up. And I feel like consistency is such a missing piece in real estate, on both sides. So that was the first piece. And right, no matter how good you are with people or how good an LO or how good a real estate agent you are, if you don't have any clients to work with, it doesn't matter how good you are. And you only have clients by going out and generating your business. However, that doesn't mean necessarily knocking on doors, but metaphorically, what is your door knocking? It's not you sitting at home waiting for the phone to ring. And so the book is how to get people to show up consistently. And the book still stands, and it still stands outside of real estate. I gave it to an entrepreneur friend a couple weeks ago, and I said, just read chapter 3. And she texts me, which is on resistance. And she texts me the following Monday. She's like, I read, picked it up, couldn't put it down. It was just the inspiration I needed to get into action. And so, yeah.
Tell me about chapter 3.
At some point, you've got to just decide. Well, Steven Pressfield talks about this universal force called resistance with a capital R.
Wait, say that again? I didn't hear it.
Resistance.
Okay.
And he uses it with a capital R, not the lowercase, like it's a thing, like it's a universal force. And I remember reading The War of Art like in 2006, or I think is when it came out. And I immediately saw all the things that were in the way of me getting into action. Printing my postcards and like, oh, there's a typo. I got to go back to the office and reprint them so I don't go to the doors that day. Or, my kid is sick, or my wife needs me to stop and, all just nonsense that happens. Or I left my shoes I have a blister, or it's hot and I don't have a hat for my head. I did have hair back then. I could just see, wow, look at all these ways I create excuses not to go do the thing I'm supposed to be doing. And it's just a form of resistance. And it's everywhere. It's when when I don't feel like writing, or when I don't, it's always there, like gravity.
There's a thing I read a while ago. I don't remember what it was called now, but they talked about it was actually another Tony Robbins thing. And he was talking about chunking and putting things together, right? And then he talked about how going to the gym first thing in the morning, if you have in your head that you wake up, you get ready, you go to the gym, that's 3 things. But other people have to make a list for everything. Wake up 6 a.m., brush teeth, pack bag, have a snack, drive to the gym, work out, shower, get dressed, drive to work. You've pretty much have overwhelmed yourself, and you don't end up going to the gym because you've overdone the mere, simple things. Like brushing your teeth is just a thing you do. You don't have to list it anymore. Like we learned that. Tying your shoes, we've learned that, right? Like it's not something you have to do. And people tend to overthink everything and create such a pile of bricks on their shoulders that they end up just not doing anything. I think door knocking is probably one of those. For me, it was cold calling. I think it was just last week we had, or 2 weeks ago, we had Josh Metal on the phone or on the podcast, and he was talking about how he would make calls, outbound calls, like a madman during a period in his career. He actually said he still does, where it's just you don't work on other things, you don't return emails, you don't even look, you just make calls. And Chet Holmes wrote a book one time, The Ultimate Sales Machine, which I thought was really good. And it was the same thing. It was like, if you have enough business, then you don't need to be calling for more than 2 times a day. If you don't have any business, all you need to be doing is calls every single day for a minimum of 8 hours. Like there's nothing else you need to do other than get business. And realtors and loan officers, same kind of thing. Whether you're out door knocking, making phone calls, whatever it is you're doing, you have to be connecting with people. And in today's world, I won't deny, I think there's a piece there that's a social media strategy as well. Because I've seen I've seen people effectively connect with people when social media is done right. So I'm not going to knock it. And I do think that in today's world, you can even, you can touch thousands of people in a short period of time, as opposed to how long it would take to touch, let's call it 300 people door knocking. Um, but I think it's just a strategy and it's just one of them. And there's nothing like face to face. There's just nothing like it, whether it's on the phone or in person, ideally in person. Next best is video, virtual conference, and then phone call and then social media. Um, so yeah, I'm all about that. I think everybody should do the hard things early in their career because things will get easier after that. And here's a quick little story. One time when I was a youngin', um, I was busy. I did well. I did all the hard things, and I had back then I had my big whiteboard, and I had lines, tapes, creating lines, and had all my clients and where they were at in the process, and it was always so impressive to look at it. Number one, it kept me organized. Number two, it felt good to see names on it, and I always had it full. And then I had this little board off to the side that was like my waiting list to get on the big board because I had gotten so busy. And then one day, the little board was empty and my big board was only about 70% full. And even though that was still a lot for most people, I was starting to panic. And I was like, what is happening? And I remember I told, everybody, don't bother me until this door opens again. And I went, I closed the door and I started making calls. I didn't think about who I was going to call. I just started calling. And I opened the door probably 2 or 3 hours later and I had 3 new deals. And one of the younger guys came in and asked me, how'd you do that? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, how did you go in there, close the door, and walk out with 3 deals? Did all 3 deals come from people you called, like randomly all of a sudden they need a loan? Like, no, actually, none of the 3 deals that came in came from the people I called. But I think it's God's way of rewarding me for doing the hard stuff. Like, okay, you deserve it now. Thanks for putting some effort in. Right. And all too often we just sit there and wait and expect without actually doing any of the hard work. So I've been enjoying this conversation. Is there anything else you want to, relay to people? A little motivation, a little something?
I would just say, what you're just pointing to is like the universal, stirring the universal pot, right, of action, right? So when you're in action, you usually have a much better chance of creating something. Like nothing happens without action. And so this book, Doors Open When You Knock, is all about how do you stay in action. And the book I'm currently writing is how do you be a professional worth hiring? And I wrote these 13 virtues, and it's delving into, the question is like, well, what does it mean to be a professional worth hiring? And so what does it mean to have clients that wait for you to come back from vacation and are happy to pay you your fee and will only refer work with you? And when you have clients like that, your business actually is pretty easy because you have high trust, you have high collaboration, not a lot of arguing, and things go faster and easier. So if you want to do more business in less time, create better relationships. And so that's what this book is about. And the title of the book is called Leads Are for Losers. The 13 virtues of being a professional worth hiring. And I'm not saying don't buy leads or do whatever you want, but in the end, if in the long run, you want a database of clients, because that's how you do more business in less time. It's not from leads. So, I would just say keep a lookout for that. Obviously, I stand by the first book. It's still incredibly relevant, but keep an eye out. I'll be done later this year, beginning of next year.
Awesome. And we're going to have your book, Doors Open When You Knock, on our website as well.
Great.
For anybody that wants to read it. I'm assuming it's also on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's my voice. If you don't like my voice, don't listen to it. Just read it.
Before I let you go, though, I have two more questions.
Yes.
And the first one I think is easy. Aside from your book, what is your favorite book?
I mean, I would say the book every real estate agent and loan officer should read would be this book, The Full Fee Agent by Chris Voss and Steve Schuil. That was part of the group of agents that came up with that material. So I would definitely say that's a required reading, but I would say, well, it's such a tough question. Probably my favorite book is The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino, because it's one of the first books I read when I became a real estate agent. And it was written in 1962 or something like that. I don't remember what year it was written.
What's it called? The Greatest Salesman in the World?
Oh, yeah. Have you not read this book?
I've never read it.
Oh, man. Yeah, you got to read this book.
Okay. I'm going to pull that one out. Greatest Salesman in the World. I'm
By
writing it
Og
down.
Mandino. There are so many other great books, but that one just, when my son was in Australia for a year and he was out selling door to door and in front of public markets, and it was really hard. I remember pulling out a page from that book and reading it to him. So that's a great book. So you got two. Sorry.
All right. No, it's good. And then the last question is, if I pulled you out of your comfy little home in Colorado, dropped you off somewhere in the United States where you don't know anybody, you still have all the knowledge you have, you don't have any real money, I give you an allowance just enough to pay your bills and have a little bit towards trying to work through a strategy, and you had to make $1 million before you can come home and see or talk to your family, how would you do that?
Am I going to sell real estate?
Yes.
I just knock on doors. I'll just
straight up every single day out there knocking on doors.
Yeah, because I'll learn the market faster and I will bump into business because I know what to do. I'm just that good at talking to people that I know how to do this, and it's just the fastest. It's not that the other things wouldn't work, but once you know the market, because if you go into a country club and you don't know any of the market, you don't know the market, then it's not that you can't be effective, but it'd be helpful to do both.
What about working open houses?
No, I just don't like open house, me personally. Remember, I don't work nights or weekends, so I don't want to do open house on the weekend. But if I had to, I have done it. But I would knock to promote an open house so that there's going to be more people there.
Back then, they didn't have fit bands. Any idea how many steps you would take in a day?
I think I tried to calculate it. I think I walked between 2 and 5 miles per day. I think it was 2.5 to 5 miles per day.
How many days a week? You did it 5 days a week?
Yeah, I got 120 to 150 days a year. Yeah, it's a lot of days, man.
Yeah. Well, listen, I thank you for joining us. Thank you for the book you wrote. I can't wait to read it, as well as I'm going to pick up The Greatest Salesman in the World. So I appreciate that suggestion. And for all you guys listening, if you want to know more, just go over to dinokatsiametis.com and you'll be able to get all the show notes and all the things we've talked about, the links to the books and all that. In the meantime, I want to thank you because you guys have really helped this podcast grow a lot more than I ever thought it would. And I'm not that kind of guy because I always think highly, but this thing actually grew. So really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all the comments and the likes and just the sharing that you do of it. It means a lot to me. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one.